Good morning, Upper Sixth. So, this was from yesterday's Times, looking at not just BooHoo, but we're doing the clothing industry this year, so it's worth focusing on a clothing retailer, but looking at companies that are greenwashing their products. Back in December, Unilever were investigated because one of their main targets at the moment seems to be giving environmental credentials to absolutely everything, no matter what it is. And we've talked about Primark before, how they had a really bad time, obviously, with that horrible thing that happened in Bangladesh. And ever since, they've been paying companies for things like the Cotton Alliance, cotton and stuff like that. So they're paying for these sorts of licenses to come in, hopefully to improve their environmental credentials. But they're still making things for obviously next to nothing. So it's very difficult to have both, by the way. So we're going to focus on legislation 2.5.2. And also we're going to look at these different areas. Even though the article isn't directly linked to all of them, we'll skim through all these areas and then focus on one or two in an essay. So looking through the unit, this should be familiar, you've revised this. So consumer protection, this is about labelling, it's about safety, and in the context of this article that I'll put up on the screen soon, it's also about greenwashing. If I expect something to be environmentally friendly, for example, I expect it to be environmentally friendly. You know, when you've got companies like EasyJet that are saying, you know, that basically they're offsetting all of their carbon emissions, trying to claim that air travel is good for the planet when it's probably one of the most toxic forms of travel. That's definitely greenwashing, and it's great that they're doing it, but don't try and dress it up as environmentally friendly travel, which they don't, by the way, just in case their lawyers are watching this video. So we have to double check that it isn't false and it isn't exaggerating how sustainable the products are. Okay, employee protection is not really covered in the article, but we think about this from safe working conditions, and you know, this is the fashion industry, fast fashion, outsourcing to the cheapest bidder. So BooHoo, for example, they were accused of using a supply chain in Leicester that were paying below the minimum wage. But then again, if you compare it to factories they use in Pakistan, when they investigated that, they were paying workers around about 29 pence per hour. Now, remember, we're not comparing UK wages to Pakistani wages. It's a totally different story, but 29 pence an hour, yeah. So, but it's about those working conditions, and you know, and we've talked about the impact on the Primark supply chain since they've had to put lots of pressure on the supply chain to be safe and everything else, and this has resulted in different working practices. Double check back on the unit, I think it's bullet point 1B for the research theme, where we focus a lot on ethics. Environmental protection, obviously very important, and it's not just BooHoo in this article, there's a couple of others here, and they're talking about obviously their environmental claims, and environmentalism is really high on the agenda of many consumers at the moment. The documentary series Blue Planet was fantastic in raising awareness to do with plastic recycling, and how toxic some of our shopping behaviours are, the impact on the environment. So when someone says that they're environmentally friendly, we expect them to be. Competition policy, if you claim that you are environmentally friendly, then I might choose your product over someone else who isn't boasting about their green credentials. So this is where the CMA feel that it's really unfair for consumers. It's like, in some ways, I think of it as, if you tell me something's £10 and then when I go to buy it, it's actually 20, you're lying about the price. Well, greenwashing is probably just as bad. It's not costing me any more money, but in some ways, I thought I was getting a better product than I actually end up getting. Okay, so it's really quite important that we understand that. And health and safety, not directly in here, in the article that we'll go through in a sec, but it is part of the unit, and it's health and safety concerns. That could be long working hours, that could be unsafe environments, yeah, that could be being bullied in the workplace. Okay, so health and safety legislation and industrial tribunals, employment tribunals, are in the same court in the UK. So if you think about employment rights up here, employee protections, your contract of employment, there's protected characteristics, all of those sorts of things can be directly linked into health and safety, especially if they go to court in the UK, because it's in the same room. So here's where you need to pause and plan. Okay, as in pause the video. So normal type of hook we've practiced 100 times. Assess the likely impact is clearly going to be our hook. Start of it on BooHoo sustainable strategies. Yep, so we're looking at those sustainability strategies. Following the CMA's increased scrutiny on companies' environmental claims. So it's the likely impact on this of this. Okay, so we need to be able to describe this. We need to be able to define this. Yeah, so it's strategies we're defining, not so much sustainability, but you may as well define it in context. And it's a 10 marker, so it's likely impact. It's one of those easier, shorter 10 markers we can get away with if we want to. P paragraph in favour, P paragraph against, A, J, answer the question, justify your answer. Justify your answer considering the alternative. It's not so much the CMA not doing it, but what would happen to possibly BooHoo with their sustainability strategy if they were allowed to greenwash. That was the way I looked at it. Now, pause the video, go in, find yourself some evidence. You need quotes or evidence for at least your P paragraphs and your justification. Pause the video, off you go. Did you pause? Don't think so. But anyway, so moving on, here's our marking grid from Edexcel. Clearly we are aiming for this as always, and we know what we're looking for. So I won't read all of this to you, but remember our likely impact on the sustainability strategies following the increased scrutiny. Okay, and this is directly linked into legislation because they've got to do it or the CMA will fine them and publicly shame them as well, probably. So sustainability strategies for BooHoo are policies that BooHoo could use to ensure that their operations are environmentally responsible under the CMA rules. Okay, so we've just described what this is in context with the question. Helps us identify what they might do. Increased scrutiny from CMA could enhance BooHoo's credibility and market position. Now, if you think about the market positioning map that you revise in the lower sixth, we normally default to price and quality. Well, it could be that we are thinking about quality as environmental credentials. Yeah, so it could be, yes, it's fast fashion, yes, it's cheap clothes, price, £5 for a bikini, not for this summer. But if you think about it, I've got that knowledge in my head. So how could this actually help them? Well, if they are following environmental rules, tell everyone about it. This actually might help them still maintain their price competitiveness, but also look like they're environmentally friendly, because fast fashion is always being badmouthed in the press. The CMA claims it helps businesses to understand and comply with the legal responsibilities when making environmental claims. If BooHoo follow the CMA's guidelines and improve the transparency of its environmental claims, it is likely to earn greater trust with consumers. By meeting the CMA's Green Claim Code, BooHoo could distinguish itself from its competitor as a leader in authentic sustainability practices, which might enhance brand loyalty and customer retention. Likely impact is boast about it and You never know, you might get more sales from it. However, the increased scrutiny could increase operational costs. Remember, this is their strategies, and if they're doing it, it might cost them more. There is a risk they will pull back and not feel confident to shout about things they do well. This is part of their strategy, by the way. And obviously a great quote from the case study. The increased scrutiny and the need for stricter adherence to sustainability claims may require BooHoo to update its practices, leading to higher operational costs. A bit of a repeat there. Dickinson, from the case study, statement suggests that the fear of being penalised for non-compliance may cause companies like BooHoo to be more reserved in their sustainability marketing, potentially reducing their market growth and innovation in sustainable practices. So this argument from the case study is, if you put too many rules on these poor retailers, then they might just stop talking about environmental practices all the time. I think there's an insinuation here that it might cost them too much money. They might have to charge £6 for a bikini instead of 5, and therefore they might just not bother with it at all. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but there you go. I'm sure Dickinson knows what they're talking about. Overall, the CMA's increased scrutiny is likely to impact BooHoo's sustainability strategies significantly, as it sounds like they will need to change how they operate. Directly answers the question. When I first wrote this first line of basically it will significantly impact the strategies, I just thought that's a bit rubbish. I need to sort of justify that before going to justification. And what we've said in the answer is it looks like they're going to have to work harder. Okay, so may as well put that in there because it's a change. Without the CMA's regulation, BooHoo might not voluntarily commit to the same level of transparency and continue to greenwash their marketing campaigns. Consider the alternative. The alternative is the rules aren't there, and they might just say, yeah, we're great for the environment, even though we make our bikinis in Pakistan for 29 pence an hour, and then put it on a jet. Okay, hopefully that was useful. What we need to consider is it level 4? Probably not perfect, as we know, but we're not aiming for that. There are 3 chains of argument. I've put them in bold for you. Is it well contextualised? Yes. Even this one-line conclusion has context in it because it's changing how they operate, even though it's a bit of a repeat of before. And we've done a good comparison down the bottom there. Okay, I'm hoping it's towards the top end of level 4. It's level 4. As long as we get level 4 and we get 100% on those 4 markers, we can live the dream on results day, can't we? Have a good afternoon.